Hey guys, just want to do a very quick video here. Well, I don't know how quick it's going to be because there's quite a few maps to get through, but just I'm not big on long range forecasting. I don't think we're anywhere near where we need to be with that. I think the last couple of winters and people being led to the cliff to jump off like lemmings has shown how far we really have to go with long range forecasting. But each year I do like to look at what conditions are towards the end of summer and what previous analogs match up with that. One this year really jumped out at me, and that was the winter of 1961-62. We had a neutral ENSO, we had a cold PDO, we had a warm AMO, and we also had a very similar hurricane season with no storms whatsoever in the month of August, and then a little bit of a flurry in September. So, I mean, that matches up very well with our current situation. There were other years that were close, and I haven't added those in yet. I am going to eventually look through, average those in as well. But the 61-62 is going to get double weight, maybe even triple weight when I do that because it matches up so well. The hurricane season match was really jumped out at me. Anyway, but we're going to look here, and we'll start here with the month of November temperatures. And I did this against the extreme long-term average. So I went as far back as the program allows you to go, and looked at that. And here you can see November 61 was a very warm month across much of the eastern United States, cold in the west. So not expecting much to go on there. Precipitation was slightly below normal along the coast, but pretty much about average through much of the actually through much of the country, really. And you're going to see that's going to be a theme going through these. Not much in the way of precipitation extremes that year. So that was interesting. But here's our temperatures for December. You can see now the cold air is starting to plunge into the Midwest, into the plains, starting to get a little bit chillier here in the east as well. Nothing too extreme, but definitely below normal here, showing up along the coast. Precipitation wise, we're looking at, again, look at the vast majority of the country is about average precipitation for the month of December. There's a pocket down here of above normal, but for the most part, the map is pretty much barren of any coloring. Now we're going to January, and now the cold is spreading even more. You can see that cold really taking over, now spreading into the Ohio Valley and the Allegheny Plateau here. Precipitation wise, again, not much going on. Very dry across the west, some pockets of above normal here in the southeast, but the east is pretty much just about normal precipitation. Now, better than being below normal, particularly when you have these temperatures here that are starting to creep towards below normal there. So it's not a bad thing to be below normal with average to slightly below average temperatures. Looking at February, now here's where it gets a little interesting here. This is the temperatures for February of 1962, and look at how warm it is here across the southeast. And there's really, I don't think I have to say the words as to what that would be indicative of. Southeast ridge building in. However, look what's going on up here in the northeast. We have this the warmth down here, but look at the chill that's going on up here. So we have a pretty large temperature gradient that's going on in here, which would be indicative of a very strong jet stream across that region. And here we can see now we do have some above average precipitation coming across the Tennessee and Ohio Valley up into the northeast and into New England as well. So, in this case, if this pattern were to come to fruition, it would not necessarily be a bad thing that we see a southeast ridge. Not all southeast ridges are created equal. So particularly if you have a surge of cold coming in from the north at the same time. So, that'll be something interesting to see how that plays out as we head through this year. And going ahead to March, the cold just overwhelms pretty much the entire country except the extreme northern tier of the nation here. I mean, this is... but notice where the core of the cold is pretty much every month. There's March, there's February, there's January, here's December, here's November. Well, here it's still out to the west, but starting in December, pretty much the core of the cold air is out here in the Midwest and the Plains, in the central part of the country. That's where the core of the cold is. So I think we're kind of looking at a jet stream that's going to be coming, on average for this winter, kind of coming down, dipping like this, and coming kind of back up like this here. On average. Now, of course, if you have that southeast ridge, it's probably going to be coming up like this, more like that. But, like I said, in general, I think that's what we're going to be looking at, as an average jet stream. And just taking a quick look at April here, because snowfall can't continue into April, and it did that year across parts of central Pennsylvania, back through the Appalachians and Alleghenies here. We have our temperatures, and there's our above average precipitation. Actually, I was looking at State College numbers, and State College had like 5 or 6 inches of snow in the month of April that year. So, and nothing spectacular, but winter did go prolonged that year. Now here is our meat of the winter time frame, December to February, and you can see the temperatures here averaging below normal across the Northeast. Here's our evidence of a southeast ridge here, and again that would indicate a jet stream that's coming down kind of like this here and across. Now that setup there is usually good for snow across the interior in particular, and so like this region in here, and this type of a pattern would be good for average to above average snowfall with that setup. So we'll have to see how that works out, and then we'll look here at our precipitation anomalies, and here you can see again much of the country pretty much average as far as precipitation goes. Some pockets of above average, particularly down here in the southeast, the wet southeast, but we'll see how that works out. Northeast, pretty much on the average side. Now, we'll go through the extended winter that the Northeast can often have, and there's our November to April temperatures. And again, look where the core of the cold is, right in here. Right in here is going to be the core of the cold. Some warmth down in here, which once again indicates that jet stream coming up, in this fashion here. So I think that's showing up on a lot of the maps. I think that might be a good average as far as we're looking at. And there's our precipitation. And interestingly enough, here much of the east is about average. The northeast is right around average, but right here, central Pennsylvania, look at that right there, that little pocket right there. And looking at the actual data, that kind of bears out. We were slightly above average that year here in central Pennsylvania. We had about 50 some inches of snow, 50.8 I think it was, from November to April. So our average is around 45. So I mean, nothing spectacular, but certainly better than we've had the past couple of winters. So that's kind of what I'm looking at as far as an analog goes. Like I said, I will add others in and see what that does to these maps at that time. But like I said, 61, 62 kind of jumped out at me, so I wanted to get this out and show you guys that and get some feedback on that as well. So hope you have a good day.